He trusted her, not because she was older, but because it was church, the same place where everyone should feel safe. But what happened? That same person he was looking up to, that same person who should be a role model to him, became the same person who would introduce him into a lifestyle that will haunt him into his teenage years, his relationship, and unfortunately, take up a habit that became a part of his life and a snare to his soul. His parents, of course, were not aware. Even his closest allies and parties were not aware. Nobody knew, but he alone was drowning in self-pity, bitterness, and pains of addiction. In this video, I'm going to tell you about the story of a young man who had so much deposited in him in God, but the one whom he trusted and looked up to ruined everything about him. While growing up as a child, he was very, very dedicated in the things of God. He was very, very focused. Everything about him screamed potentials, screamed beauty, screamed greatness. Like every other child, he went to the Sunday school to be taught the Word of God. But while at the Sunday school, the very person who was entrusted to look after him started having a liking towards him. And of course, you may want to wonder, why would an adult begin to admire a young boy who was still trying to find his path in life? As the boy grew, the admiration this woman had for this boy grew. Because of course, the young man was very handsome. He was talented. As he grew up into his puberty age, and as he became a matured man in his teenage age, something began to happen. This same teacher that was supposed to look after this young boy started introducing this boy to a lifestyle and to a pace of life that was very, very strange to him. By the time this boy got into the university, he entered the university as a virgin, entered the university with a mind that he was going to graduate with the first class. But of course, his Sunday school teacher wouldn't let him be. Because while the boy grew up and entered the university, the Sunday school teacher also gained admission and entered the university. One thing led to another. The Sunday school teacher started inviting this young man to her house. And of course, out of regard and respect, based on who she was to him, he decided to go. And that was where it all began. Before you knew it, what started as a forceful act became a pattern, became something that even the young man started enjoying. And before you knew it, an innocent boy became very much addicted to that lifestyle. So much so that even when he couldn't find anyone to do that with, he looked for ways that he could gain pleasure. The same person who was supposed to be a spiritual guide became the same person who sowed the seed of immorality into this very boy. Now, as this boy grew up, because he was not matured enough to handle the kind of exposure, to handle the kind of life that was before him, he went rogue. His appetite, sexual appetite, became very, very high. That nothing in skirt was, in fact, anything in skirt was just what moved him. Why? Because of the seed that was sown into him by someone he trusted. As he grew up, he couldn't have control over it. The more he tried to stop, the more he saw himself doing it the more. And that even went as far as ruining relationships for him. Because of the way and the manner with which he had gone, no one could satisfy that urge. So he had to look out for many persons who could fit into that shoe and satisfy him. This story may sound familiar and it may ring a bell to someone watching this. Dear parent, do you even really know who is training your children in Sunday school or even in school where they are? This young boy grew up very bitter because he was living a life that he never planned for. With all the potentials, with all what God has deposited in him, he was having a struggle that became a very serious addiction in his life. Oftentimes, the people who wound us, the people who take us down the path of regret, are not strangers. Rather, they are people who we entrusted our life, our time, and resources into. Of course, the Sunday school teacher is married with a family of our own. But that young boy is damaged. And it will take the power of God to bring such people out. And there are thousands, millions of young men out there who are abused. Ladies, young ladies who are abused by the very people they look up to. But they can't talk because how can people even bring their minds to complain the fact that such could be happening to people in a place where their faith is to be built? So, personally as a person, because having listened to stories like that, I made up my mind not to be in a haste to judge people by how they live their lives. Some of them are living a life that they have no control over. It's not like they are happy living that kind of life, but they just see themselves living that life because it has overpowered them. A spirit has entered. They've been exposed to courthouse. Sometimes people do things not because they want to do it, but they do things because a higher power has taken over them and has beclouded their judgment. So it takes a much more superior power to bring them out of that captivity. Addictions are not what is broken. Addictions are not broken by reading of books. They are not even really broken by discipline. They are broken by the power of God. For such a person who has so much trust, so much confidence, what do you think? And how do you think this young man will begin to look at other Sunday school teachers or people in the house of God? Do you think that when this young man tomorrow gets married and decides to raise a family, do you think that young man will be confident enough to hand over his children to someone in church to look after? So sad that the people who damaged him are not outsiders. The person who damaged him was someone inside the church. For someone watching this, I know you feel that pain. You might have probably left church because you feel, if someone can do this to me in church, then is it not better I go to the world? But I'm here to tell you this evening, depending on where you're watching from, that there's someone who loves you, there's someone who values you, there's someone who cares so much about you, someone who would never let you go down. The pain you feel can only be lifted by the power of God. Addictions are not broken by will. Addictions are broken by the power of God. The people you've trusted may have broken you. The people you gave everything to may have rubbished you. They may have made you feel like you are nothing. And trust me, it can really be painful when situations like this makes you begin to question if God is truly real. That doesn't mean a lot is not going on behind the altar. But I want you to know that not everyone is like that. You cannot make progress moving backward. Learn to let go. If you're watching this and you're hurt because someone abused you, someone you trusted so much abused you, it is time to let go. Unforgiveness makes you a prisoner of yourself. Now, this is the interesting part I didn't tell you about that young man. The young man happened to come across a group of friends who were very, very much passionate about his growth. who recognized what that young man carried. And instead of judging him, instead of writing him off, they took it upon themselves to ensure that what God has deposited into that young man becomes a reality. And so, joining hands in prayers, they prayed and they prayed, following him up with the Bible, also ensuring that he was also taking physical steps to ensure he never went back that way. And within a very short period of time, he overcame it and he became better. He became a very wonderful songwriter, became a minstrel that God is using mightily in his hands. I want you to know that how you began is not the issue. How you end is the matter. What you've done is not really the issue, but what are you doing now to ensure that patterns does not repeat itself? Because what began as a little trial ended up becoming a part of his daily life, a part of his daily routine. So I want to speak to you today. Let go and let it heal. Let go of anyone who has hurt you in the past, of any pain, of anything at all that you have experienced. Because in Jesus you have total liberty. In Jesus you have total joy and restoration. I don't know if this story has ministered a lot to you or anything to you, but I want you to know that that pain you feel in your heart can be mended by one man, and his name is Jesus. That addiction can be broken by one man, and his name is Jesus. Addictions are so powerful that no matter how anointed you are, no matter how fireized you are, if that yoke has not been broken in your life, it will make you a reproach. Because what started happening with this young man was, though the hand of the Lord was mighty upon him, he was serving his church, but that lifestyle was making him a reproach. So his service before God was coming up like a smoke. It was entering people's eyes. And also, his ministration could not go beyond the four walls of his environment. Because when people who look up to him get close to him, that weakness ends up chasing them away. Because, of course, when lust is not dealt with, it will embarrass you. So it is better and wiser to deal with that sin now before it destroys you. I hope this blessed you. Share with someone and don't forget to subscribe. God bless you.